What's going on, everyone? This is Dr. Mephisto. We're here in Toronto, and this is the last episode of the ride for 2019. What a year. And to finish this year, I want to end it up on a big note. So the guest I'm getting today is a person I have a lot of love for. She's an amazing dancer, amazing human being. She's one of the pioneers of the Afrofusion dance here in Toronto, and she just recently was a guest on the TEDx Toronto. And if you don't know her already, I can't wait for you guys to discover her. Let's go. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like the content. We also have the patreon.com page if you want to support us for as little as $1 a month and get access to all the bonus content. And obviously, if you're a Tesla fan and you want to get one, there's also my promo code in the description below, so don't hesitate. All right, enjoy. Esie.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good in here. Yeah.
All right. Let's do this. Weather is horrible.
I know. I was like, out of all the days, it actually
Yeah.
ended up being a snowstorm. Well, this is great.
All right. As usual, quick introduction for people who don't know you, if there is.
I'm Esie Mensah. I am a dancer, choreographer, teacher, movement director. Yeah, all that good stuff. And more. Speaker now, too.
Well, it must be like the quickest intro anyone ever did.
No. Well, it's just like, if you want to know more about me, look me up.
No, I'm just kidding. All right. So, I have a lot of questions actually.
I got a feeling.
Let's start from the beginning. As usually what I ask, like, how did all this journey started
Of dance?
for you? Yeah.
This journey started, you can say it started from when I was a kid. Like, I used to do traditional Ghanaian dancing as a kid. That was really like my first contact with dance. And then I used to teach myself choreography from hip hop music videos.
Okay.
Just because it's like I would always be dancing at home. I don't think I realized it until I was older, like how much I was dancing as a kid. But it would never, like, things would never work out. I wanted to be, like, I had a friend of mine when we were in high school that wanted to do like a recreational hip hop dance class at a studio. And so we went, but then she dropped out. And then I was by myself because I didn't know anybody else in the class. And my mom's like, "You're not dropping out, I already paid for it." I was like, "Okay." So it looks like I'm staying. And then the teacher that we had left, and then the owner of the studio came in, and she ended up teaching the class, and then she invited me to try out for the comp team. So she was like, "Try out." So I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna try out for everything." I tried out for modern, I tried out for jazz, I tried out for musical theater, and I tried out for hip hop. None of which I've done any of it, just hip hop I've done. And I made all the teams. And then I went to my parents, really excited. You know, I was like, yay, my supposed dream of dancing was starting to come to life. And then it couldn't happen because my parents didn't have the money to do it. I was already doing martial arts, so they couldn't afford something else. So then that was basically it. And then when I was in university, what was happening?
Yeah, I get nervous too.
Yeah. When I was in university, that's when I really fell in love with dance. I had a dance team with a girlfriend of mine called Exclusive. And we had the team. I didn't make the team until second year. Very shy. People that may not know me. I'm very shy, so I didn't really know anybody in my first year, and then I started meeting people and started dancing, and the competition, Ouch, which is still going on today, I think it actually just recently happened, was a competition that I used to run, and I was in it, and I was a part of McMaster's Legacy. We were like a 7-peat. We were the first like 3 of those years of McMaster's Legacy of winning Ouch, and yeah, we built a reputation there. And then after my 3rd year, I was like, I want to pursue dance. I think I do, at least. And I left my university to pursue dance full time, and since I've started, I haven't stopped. That's basically what it is.
That was very, very quick.
Really? And I was
just
like,
take your time, right? You
okay.
speak super fast.
Okay,
Make
well then,
master
yes.
thing. I don't know what it is, but I have, it's a competition,
okay, yes.
basically.
Yeah, so McMaster University, I went to university,
I see.
So I was in university for 3 years. I did a joint major of women's studies and cultural studies.
Okay.
And then after my 3rd year, because it was like my first semester of my 3rd year, we were running the competition, and it was like massive. We ran the competition, what else did we do? Yeah, we ran the competition, we did, I competed, I choreographed, all of that was happening in my first year, and I ended the first year with like A's and B's.
What was involved in organizing it?
Oh, everything. Because the first year we did it in the school pub.
Okay.
The first year, so Ouch started at Waterloo, University of Waterloo. And then that first year, which was my first year of school, but I wasn't on the team then, McMaster came and won. So the idea of Ouch was that the team that wins is the host the following year.
All right.
So the first year that we had it, we did it in the school pub. And that was really successful. It was packed.
Hub or hub?
The pub.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's a hub, I don't know.
Yeah, some people might call it the hub, but it was the bar, school pub. And then the following year, we won again that year. So then the following year, we were like, where can we do it? And then Mac let us do it in the gym. And then we ended up having like a friend of ours that was in business, and he brought in connections, and we literally packed out the gym. And because we were like, okay, do we do both sides? We were selling tickets. So think it's like basically like a basketball game. So both sides of the chairs, of the bleachers are out. Those are completely packed. People are like fighting their way to get in. All of the schools came in. I think we ended up having more schools, like Guelph was there, Humber was there, Waterloo was there, UFT was there.
You forget the money for all that.
Well, it's just but it was like all the teams like set up shop and paid to be a part of it, and it was just like people were starting to find out more about Ouch, because at that time there was really no other university hip hop competition.
Right.
Like everything that's now like Final Stretch or whatever that happened yesterday. All of those like Final Stretch, Beat Down, all of that stuff, none of that was really around for universities. The only thing that there was Ouch. So, because this was like 12 years ago, 12 plus years ago. So that whole vibe of it, really, people were excited about it, because it wasn't like I didn't have to point my toes. I could actually dance hip hop, and it was enough, you know?
Yeah.
So that really shifted things in the industry, or like I guess in that industry, and then just started opening up the world, and people got really excited, and then we won again that year. Actually, no, did we? No, we lost that year, which was BS. We should have won. We were rather upset. We should have won, but we didn't. So
you want to call out someone here?
No. I'm gonna say Waterloo won again. So then we came back with a vengeance, and then the following, so it would have been my 4th year, but I took that semester off. So after my 3rd year, when we ran that big competition, dance was like all incumbent in that whole entire time. And then when we had our 2nd semester, it was funny, my mom's like, you need to just put dance away and just focus on your studies. Not really realizing that dance was actually helping me with my studies. Because I at least had an extra outlet. And so when I had done my 2nd semester, I ended up, I missed the cutoff of the classes that I wanted to take. I couldn't take because I missed the cutoff because of the competition.
Okay.
So I ended up having to take classes in order to make my elective or to make my program. So the classes that I ended up taking, I hated, and or majority of the classes I ended up taking, I hated. So I ended up with C's and D's that year. I didn't fail. I didn't do well. So that was my like, I don't think I want to do this anymore state. Or it just was like, you know, dance for whatever reason was really kind of pushing to the forefront of my mind, and I was like, okay, well, what is something that I really love to do? I really love to dance. You know, maybe I can actually pursue it. Maybe this could actually be a thing. And then, but still, like, the only up until that point, the only thing I've done was hip hop and Ghanaian styles. That's it. So.
And was at the time the style you could work with?
No. Well, yes, because it was like, dude, I didn't know that was happening, but I grew up in Hamilton. So growing up in Hamilton was a very different, you know, there's no industry there. So I knew that if I wanted to, quote unquote, make it as a dancer, I had to move. I would have to move to Toronto. So.
Right. Let me just take a step back real quick because I want to react to something you said at the very beginning about how your parents didn't have money to pay for your classes.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy that classes are so expensive, but yet when you're a dancer, it's so hard to make money?
Yeah, it's funny. Well, think about it, because it's like competition. Like, I was just like, oh, okay, you just pay to be a part of the competition team and that's it. But it's like recognizing that it's like you pay for the competitions, you pay to be a part of the team, you have to pay for costuming, you have to pay for travel to the competitions. It's like you don't recognize like how expensive it is and how much money you invest in it. And then the same thing goes, it's like when you're a professional. It's like you pay to train, you pay to be a part of it, and very few people get a return on that. You know? Like for me, it's like I get a return because I'm making money, but but for a lot of dancers that are present right now in the industry, you're not making a return, like at all, you know? And like, what is that? And how do you navigate the fact that you're putting in more than what you might be getting out? We'll
Sounds like a scam.
Not necessarily, but we'll bucket that, like that's gonna be like, you know, 2.0 of the conversation, because that's a whole other thing to unveil, you know? So
go ahead.
Yeah, but where was I? Yeah, so I left university. I got my older
Sorry,
sister.
I had another question.
Okay.
Is that competition you organized still going on today?
Yeah,
Okay.
which is still happening.
Are you like brought up sometimes like a
No? No. I don't even think they know that I was part of it.
Is it judges?
Yeah, like so it's just like a regular dance competition. So all the universities, we expanded it to universities and colleges, and we got yelled at. But now it is actually both universities and colleges. What is it? So it's universities and colleges that you compete. You have X amount of time to be able to build your set. You do your set, and then it's just like a regular dance competition. You do it, you perform it, and then that's it, you know? So it's pretty neat to kind of just see the growth. I haven't been to Ouch. Last time I was there was probably when I was in Hamilton, which was a few years after I left school. So it would have been like within the 2008, 2009 realm, when the people that were a few years after me were still in school. So I think when it's like Amena and Jeff were in their fourth year, I think I came back to watch. And McMaster won again. And then, you know, so it's funny because it's like when I see people that are a part of MAC, like I tell them, I was like, we were amongst the first people that started McMaster's legacy in terms of winning the competition. And it wasn't the fact that, like, you know, some people are assaulting me like, well, you guys are just, you know, you guys were running it. I was like, no, we actually were just really good. Like, that was it. Like, and I was like, when I was in, like, I went to university with Lennon, so I actually was dancing with Lennon back then.
Sorry.
Lennon,
I don't know Lennon.
Oh, yeah, so do you know Dark Dance? Have you heard of Dark Dance?
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, so Lennon and Allison Bradley, what is happening? Choices, people, choices.
I know.
Lennon and Allison Bradley have a company called Dark Dance. I went to university with Lennon, so that's when I actually started dancing with him. So him, my friend Nadine Luminato was also a part of the group. So was myself, Nadine, Jermaine Anthony. We all choreographed. So the four of us came together and we choreographed. So we all had very different takes of our hip hop styles, and we all did different sections of it. And that one I think it's actually still up online.
Oh my God, what the hell's going on? This is the end of the world outside right now.
What is happening?
So sorry.
No worries.
When I remember when it's not the first time I saw you, but it's the first time I told myself, because at the time I was kind of figuring out, I was discovering the industry dance. I was coming more from the underground, like freestyle, and I went to Tud's. Shout out to Apollyon and Julio.
Oh yeah.
And I saw this girl that I see always on stage doing some like burlesque stuff with with Hollywood Jade, just like jump in the cypher and freestyle. I was like, huh.
Oh my gosh.
There's one that can do it, eh?
First off, shout out to Apollonia. She knows how I feel. Every time she's like, so you're battling? And I was like, what do you talk? She's like, oh, so you're battling. Okay, so we signed you up? And I was like, Apple, what are you talking? She's like, yeah, I've signed you up. You just need a partner. And then, so me, Vanessa Lee, we probably should battle again too. But we came together because we were like, I guess, because we were performing in Chlorophyll. That's when I met. It was me, Vanessa, Gomez.
What the hell am I doing right now?
What is happening? Oh, he's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Me, Vanessa, Gomez, Raul, we were all, and there's a few others. I can't remember everybody's name, sorry. But we all performed in that piece. And then Apple, obviously there's the battle portion of it. So she was like, you know, do whatever you gotta do and go through. So it was like, okay. And then, so me and Vanessa came together. Our team was black and yellow.
Okay.
Because that was the name of our duo. And we actually got a lot farther than I expected. I don't battle often. So like pacing and all of that stuff, and I, you know, it gets a little bit, you get really winded when you don't. The stamina and the cardio, what you need just to be able to battle at a high level for each round, or understanding how to pace yourself for that is really important. So, which was it was a big lesson, but I think I've only battled maybe once or twice since then. I don't battle often. Shout out to Footnotes for like the 3 months that I was in it.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, but it's just my schedule is crazy, and putting the time forward, and it was hard because I was starting a contract, and then I was gonna be gone for 3 months, and then I did Shades, and then I did ZAYO, and then I had my TED Talk. So by the time I was like I had a moment to breathe, it was like, and it's November.
All right, don't go too fast because you just said a lot of things that need to be explained.
Okay.
So. I know. All right. So you think you can dance?
Oh wow. Okay. What do you want to know?
I don't know anything. So let's start from the beginning.
Okay. So you think you can dance? Came in and infected the dance industry. Yes, I said that. So I auditioned year 1, 2, and 4. I took year 3 off. So you think you can dance? It was interesting. It was a very interesting process because it felt like something that everybody was really excited to be a part of. And then you realize the reality of how it is. And then you realize you're like, actually, it's not as much fun as I think it is. You know, you realize that it's a TV show first, and then it's a dance competition. You know, so I remember my first year. My first year was probably, I would say, amongst my one of my favorite auditions. Before I had done the 4th year one, but I just like I came in, I smashed. I was just like when you just come in innocent, you're just like I'm just happy and excited to be here type of thing. So I came in, and we did the auditions. I made it to the top, like I made it to, I guess, the audition week, and I got through all the way to ballroom, which is the second What is it? Yeah, it was the second round. Yes, because we do hip hop first, and then it's ballroom, and then if you make it past ballroom, you do contemporary. So I made it past the first day. Great, Luther taught. Made it past. Was making it past to the second day, and I got partnered with Hollywood, and then we both got eliminated, and it was weird because it just was like. But I was actually doing really good, so it was a little bit like, are you just trying to get people off? Which is a lot of what they do, because it's just the nature of the show. And then, yeah, just trying to navigate. I guess for me, it's like what that whole world was, and I was really, really heartbroken after that first year. And then one thing that I realized, which is kind of the seeds of why I created the shows that I did, was when they named their top 20, you know, I can't remember her name, Leia. It was like, and here's your top 20 for Canada, woo! And then they pan out, and I was like, oh, that's the reason why I could never be on this first season, because I'm too dark. Because when you pan out, everybody amongst a bunch of people look the same. Even though Lisa Ogis was a part of that year, but she's a lot lighter than me. So when you pan out, she blends in, because you just gotta have some tan people, and then she'll blend in. But that was something that was the first real experience of like, oh, when you have somebody that is of darker complexion amongst a group of people that of like individuals, when you pan out, you're still seeing me. There's no way that you're not gonna notice that I'm like there. So that was the first thing, and then I kind of started to look at So Easy Could Dance USA, and I realized that yeah, there was no real dark-skinned people until the 4th season.
Right.
And that was when like Twitch was on, Josh was on.
What Twitch was on?
Comfort Twitch. Yeah.
Okay.
It was all. They were all Twitch, Comfort, Josh. They were all on the 4th year. And
We're talking about the same Twitch, right?
yes, yeah, that's on Ellen right now. Yeah. Yeah, because he was on So You Think USA.
Oh, so it's we're not talking about the same. There's this old school lady from Harlem.
Oh yeah, no, definitely not the same. Definitely not the same.
She was like a judge for Just the Boo like last year.
Oh,
Yeah,
sick.
It's not the same.
Yeah, no. Twitch he's now the DJ on Ellen.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. No.
Yeah, so different guy. But
Actually, I might just, you know what? Forget it. What it said. Maybe it's a different name. I'm messing it up.
Gotcha. Yeah, so he, so seeing how, not to say like how they treat dark-skinned people, but it's just the fact that like they warm up the audience with people of lighter complexions, and then eventually when they feel like people are ready, then they can introduce the darker skinned black people. That's what it seems like, and it tends to happen on competitions. Like I'm sure that if you pan into American Idol or Canadian Idol, like you'll see the fact that they're still choosing people. And it's not to say that dark-skinned people are not talented, it's just that we may not have the same access that everybody else gets.
Yeah, it's not just about dance.
No, it's not. And that's where it's just like, it was a TV show first, and then it was a dance competition.
Yeah.
So it's not really about your talent, because there's a lot of talented people that didn't make the show, and a lot of not as talented people that made the show, Mm-hmm. And it's just like you're going for a certain look, and it's just like it's the commercial dance industry at its finest. You're looking for a certain look. What is that? What does that look like? How do looks look together? What do we want to be our end goal of people? Like all of that stuff, So for me, it's always very interesting to kind of see the reality of the business when you kind of just when you choose to take a step away and just kind of see it for what it is. Then you understand, oh, okay, I can understand why. It's not to say that like I should still swallow it and comprehend it like it's real, but it's reality, and it's a reality we can't shake.
So you realized that in what season?
After the first season.
And then you went back to other seasons?
Yeah, I went back to second season. I think I went as far as hip hop, and then I got cut. I can't remember. Second season is a blur. I don't really remember what happened, but I know I didn't go far. And then the last season, which we didn't know was going to be the last season, I did, that was when I did my Afro jazz piece, which is still up, and everybody talks about because, you know, it was the first time you saw anything Afro on Canadian TV, really. Like in terms of like, especially within the world of So You Think You Can Dance. Not like anything Afro specific, but within the world of So You Think You Can Dance, that was the first time anybody saw anything Afro related, which was dope. You know, it was really nice to kind of see how people embraced it, and it was also like me embracing me. I was at a time where I knew I wasn't quite hip hop like prior to that, which was why I was struggling with like what to do, because I was like, I wasn't quite hip hop, I wasn't quite like heels, and my self-expression was so inner, it wasn't fully realized yet. So but when I did Afro, I was like, you know what, screw this, I'm gonna have fun. Put on my kente and, you know, my sheer top and hit it, and my hair looking crazy. I was like, what did I not like? It was an audition. My hair looks crazy, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, so it was really, for me, it's like I was really excited. I got really welcomed, and then something that I found was really interesting was that when we got into doing audition, or like the finals week, I, like, a little birdie kind of like was hinting that I was probably going to make the show. And at that time, hearing that information kind of left me on edge, where some people would probably be really excited to be like, oh my god, I can make it, let me kill this shit, and that's it, like, you know. But I was doing the opposite. I actually was like nervous because I was trying to figure out, like, am I doing enough, you know? Am I doing enough to get chosen? Am I doing enough to be seen? Am I doing enough? All of this stuff. And I believe that I probably was the reason why they ended up also having Afro Jazz in the finals week. That was one of the forms that they had to teach. Sean Cheeseman taught it. But then, and it's absolutely no shade to Sean Cheeseman, but it was more jazz than Afro. So jazz I'm not well versed in. African I am. So when I'm hearing the timing and the movement, and my body's like, what's going on? Like, it's trying to fight, and it just doesn't sit well in my body, you know. And I'm trying to perform and look beautiful and be the thing, and then I actually got cut after Afro Jazz, and it was really heartbreaking. It was really, really heartbreaking, because I was like, I felt like I disappointed A, myself, but B, the expectations that they had of me, and that I didn't live up to it. And it was really, that whole time was really challenging for me, because, you know, I really wanted to make it, but in hindsight, I was actually really thankful that I didn't, because I don't think I would have been able to handle the show. Because the reality of the show is just like, what can you deal with? You know, can you juggle a ball? Can you juggle 16 balls while you're also dancing? Oh, and we're also gonna put you on quicksand. Oh, we're also gonna give you black ice. You can still perform, right? Though, right? Good. You know, it's just like the test. And I know a lot of people are like, well, that's the industry, and I was just like, yeah, but sometimes not everybody is built to sustain that. And I also think that it's also a cop-out to be like, oh, that's the industry, that's the industry. I'm like, not everybody in the industry operates that way. It's not to say that we can't be adaptive when shit gets real in a setting. I have to do it all the time as a choreographer. Oh, that's what you said the stage looked like, and that's the reality of the 2-foot stage that you want us to perform on? Got it. Oh, and you also want us to dodge and weave musicians. Oh, okay, got it. Oh, and you also want me to do this. Oh, and you actually didn't even play the track at the right time. Perfect. You know, so it's like all of those things are, it's a prerequisite when you work in the commercial dance industry, because you know things are not always going to be perfect. You try to plan for the perfect scenario, but that doesn't always happen. So realizing that doesn't always happen, you know, I want to prepare people. For me, I want to prepare people in a very loving way, you know. So when people work with me, it's like I work from a place of compassion. And
so yeah, I was gonna ask, is all this was a motivation for your own will to choreograph?
Yeah. And to be honest, it's like, remember, I was choreographing from when I was in university. But when I got to Toronto, I didn't really choreograph as much. Because I just knew that, like, people were shady. So if I had started choreographing, people, especially if I started choreographing hip-hop, people would have been like, who is she? She ain't got no hip-hop training. I don't even know her. Basically all the same things that we do now. I went through, you know, and people...
Are you doing it too?
Yeah, all the time. All the time. I do it to people. Who are you? Where did you start this? I understand, but then at the same time, it's like, it's very easy to say, well, I've been doing this for XYZ time. But it's just like, but I understood for myself, it's like, I still needed to prove myself in some way. I still needed people to accept me first, so that way when I got into the space of when I was actually choreographing, then they can actually be like, oh, okay, you know what, she all right, you know? And I also, when I first started choreographing, one of the first things I actually started doing was Afro. So I did Choreographer's Ball 10 years ago, or 10 or 9 years ago or something like that was my first Choreographer's Ball, and I did an Afro piece. I did more of a traditional piece. I did it to songs from Serafina, and yeah, I wanted to just kind of just showcase, for me, I wanted to showcase something different. And showcase in a way that people couldn't come for me. Nobody could come for me because nobody did African. Yeah. So I was like, no one's gonna be able to say, oh, where are your credentials? No, you can't say any of that stuff because you guys don't have credentials, so you can't come and read me for something that you know nothing about. This is my culture. So that was my first inkling of just kind of really.
And now you read everyone.
Hey, that's what happens. You're an OG.
There you go.
People. It's a part of the job requirements. When you get to
no judgment. I'm just dropping in.
I know, but I'm just saying, when you get to a certain level, as reading people is a part of life. Okay, guys.
So it's funny because the first time I saw you perform was actually Choreo Balls, and at some point I stopped going because I thought I was very. It wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a lot of money for something I'm actually not really having fun at, except like a couple of pieces. And I actually went back a few years back. That's the time where you did that, airport piece. With,
that was interesting.
And that's the first time I saw this type of performance, and that was before I decided to start learning Afro too. And it was like a little bit of a rebirth because I got excited the same way I was excited in France for old school hip hop and stuff like that, and that's why I wanted to explore a little.
Nice.
And like I was like, okay, I did well. I'm happy I came this time.
So you gained something. Well, that's
there you
good.
go.
Well, yeah, that was exciting. And I don't know if any of your questions have for me to talk about Black Stars, but like.
Well, we're getting there, but I have to ask before. What was the company again? Burlesque.
Oh, Urbanesque.
Urbanesque. That's actually the first thing I saw you.
Oh, in?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's very different.
Yeah. It was very different.
Yeah, the whole dancing. And that's the thing, it's like I worked with Hollywood for about 5 years before we had gone our separate ways. And I was his like muse, I was his mentee. And, Urbanesque was such a special time. It wasn't for me, I'm not going to speak for everybody that was in it, but it was a special time for me because it really gave me a chance to step into my womanhood, to feel sexy, to own that on stage, to develop new performance techniques and everything, dance and heels, all of that stuff, and it was something that was really special. And for me, it's like once that started to move in a different direction, I just was like, okay, I think it's time for us to kind of just, we're at a crossroads, we're going to move into 2 different ways. But there was no heels before Hollywood.
Really?
Well, okay, I'm going to say, I'm also going to precursor this in the time of like Duda and Blaze, like within this time frame, like there was nobody that was solely focusing on heels the way Hollywood was. And it's definitely not the way that it is now. Like now, everybody doing heels. Everybody and their grandmother is doing heels now. But this was at a time like Aisha Francis, who is a teacher that came and has come recently in Hollywood, continues to bring her. But Aisha and my friend Tangara Jones, they brought Aisha Francis to she
from where?
Phenomenal from the States.
Okay.
So Aisha Francis, to give you the header and footer, she dances for everybody. She's developed every artist. Normani, she's been working with Normani for like a lot of the choreography that she's been doing for award shows lately, but she's worked with Beyonce. She's worked with and has developed everybody, you know. So a lot of the movements, because one of the things that, okay, so as a side note, one of the things people need to realize, a lot of artists are a blueprint of their choreographer, period. Or choreographers if they work with a few. Until they figure out their own style, but a lot of times it's like they are a reflection of who they work with. They are their choreographer, because that artist is a voice, but that artist is not an artist yet. You know, and what helps to make them an artist is the choreography, is the movement direction that can get them on stage and to get them moving. So a lot of the people that we love and enjoy are just a representation of their choreographer. Janet Jackson was when she first started. All of When I Think of You, all of that stuff is Paula Abdul.
Well, so even when you think of Michael Jackson and the Electric Boogaloo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just, you know, and it's not to say that like MJ is not MJ or that Janet's not Janet. And that is not to say any of that stuff, but the blueprint of who they have on them, until they figured out who they really were, then, you know, it's like, then we knew and understand like what that was and what people look like. So to say that when you're looking at what is it? Oh, damn it! I think I've kind of lost my train of thought.
Well, in the meantime, like, what do you think when of like Janet Jackson Afrobeats that she came up with?
Well, okay, so, and it's funny because I was thinking about, because I did an Afro piece for Blake McGrath. He had done a music video and he wanted me to do African, and it was funny because he did African before African was a thing, so he could say that. It's interesting when you have to choreograph for artists, or when you choreograph African pieces into the commercial setting, and they want it to look like a commercial thing, you know? So a lot of times the sauce and the vibe and all of that stuff kind of gets stripped away because of the quote-unquote cleanliness factor. So it's not to say like it wasn't hype, but it wasn't, you know, like
was watered down.
Yeah, like the sauce and all of that wasn't there. The people that were like, that can get it, like you can feel, like that's the thing, is that people don't realize. And I had done a TEDx adventure yesterday, and I'm explaining to people, and I was like, there's something really special about Afro dancers. I'm not talking about any other style, I'm not talking about dance or anything else. There's something really special about Afro dancers and the groove and the nuances that are actually present in Afro. That's one of the reasons why it's sweeping the world, is because of the fact that it's something that can't be taught. To me, I'm like, it's spirit, it's ancestors, you know, the way that they're able to speak through the body, and how people can translate that, like, between people. You know, we could automatically catch on a groove and be sitting in the exact same pocket right away. And it could be something, you know, as stupid as a two-step, or it could be something really elaborate. Like, you know, it's just like, and how you can make a two-step look really hype just because of the nuances that you can add into the movement that can really grow it and make it something even greater. And that is something that I feel like Afro has. And when people within the commercial setting want Afro, but they don't really want Afro, they want their version of how they can make Afro look. So I'm gonna give you an Afro Gap commercial. I'm gonna give you an Afro, and it's not even shade to, like, the choreography was good, but it was like, what did it really look like before we got into the Janet Jackson version of the original blueprint of it? Because obviously it's like you're in a room with Gil or with whoever is choreographing, and then you're doing the movement and be like, okay, I like that. Okay, so how can we, so let's make this a little bit more structured. But but it feels different when you see an Afro dancer doing it versus the way that it ended up by the time it got to the version that ends up in the music video. There's same thing happened when we did French Montana. You know, when we did French Montana, we were working with Lorianne Gibson for Live with Kelly and Ryan. Same thing. It's just like you groove, and it's like, okay, well, I like this. Okay, I like this stuff. So, okay, yep, put this together. Okay, can we add a little bit? Yeah, add a little bit of Lorianne into that, so that way, you know, it still feels like you put it together. But it's not your moves. It's not my moves either, you know. But the essence of it, and that to me is like, it's a whole bigger conversation, because I feel in a lot of ways the essence of what Afro is, whatever that term is, because that still makes no damn sense to me.
You know what it reminds me? It reminds me of, I don't know if I should make that joke.
Do it.
And my girlfriend is gonna get pissed, but anyway. It reminds me of, you know, when you try to do a recipe for the first time, and you're like, maybe I should add this and this. Like, you never did it before.
Yeah,
like, try to do it before, and then once you master it, start adding your own little touch.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep, and that's really all it is. It's all people, you're like, oh, you know, this is enough. And you're like, actually, no.
No.
You know, and it's the stamp of what Afro is. And it's funny, because it's like, I'll have conversations with like Zara and people that are close to me. And, you know, when people are like, oh, I teach Afro. So it's like pop quiz, and you're like, okay, so from what country and what tribe can you actually tell me what the Afro is that you do? And if you can't actually describe to me what the Afro, whether it's you're doing Afro house, you're doing Afro dance hall, you're teaching Afro beat classes, if you can't actually start to describe to me what it is, you should be teaching. Period. You know, and that's where, for me, it's like all of a sudden I've become the gatekeeper of it. But then, as an added layer to it, that I'm now starting to pose and asking and saying this to people in my classes yet. This is the first time I've actually said it, I guess, quote unquote, publicly. But it's how is the world of Afro upkeeping the responsibility of who we are as Africans? You know, when you're looking at everything Afro is feeling very far removed from Africa.
Yeah.
And it's like, so what is our commitment? If I'm teaching Afrobeat classes, what is my commitment? What is my responsibility? What is my duty to be able to hold what this Afro community is? How am I a keeper of this? Because that is sacred. Because it's not like these kids are just like, yeah, just out here, you know, guada came in my body and now everybody's doing it. No, ancestors came into your body. They gave you that movement, and now that movement is now literally an international phenomenon. But that was something sacred that was placed in you, that was now given out. But now everybody, Tom, Dick, and Harry, wants to do guada, and you don't even know what it is. And it's fine, because at the end of the day, that's, for me, the conversation about Afro is complex, because I'm like, we're all learning it from the same way. I'm not in South Africa. I wasn't with the kids, the school kids. And they're, you know, having their time, and they're jamming, and they're, you know, everybody's on stage. I'm not there. I'm learning it from online. So I have to understand as a teacher that if I'm learning it the exact same way that somebody else is, what makes me more qualified than them? And it's, to me, it's like, it's the cultural responsibility. That's what has to make me more qualified, is the fact that I can explain to you culture. I can explain to you where the movement sits in to be able to understand the groove of what that thing is. I may not be there, and yeah, you might have 10 different people that might do guada very differently, and it's fine, but this is the way that I like to do it. And this is how it sits into my body, and this is the groove, and this is how I can explain to people to be able to understand it within themselves. And then, to me, as an added layer to that, it's like, but I'm also wanting to show you understandings of like who we are as Africans, so that when you're coming into class, you're also getting a history lesson, and you're not just getting dance steps. And a lot of people right now, for me, and this is not just in the city, this is internationally, a lot of people are committed to just to giving you steps and not giving you the culture. Because if you were in a traditional class, you would get you would get more of the culture because the drum is there, because the teacher has trained in XYZ, and we can give you that.
But isn't that just? I remember with the first time I went to New York and I went to like BDC, right within center. I just didn't get it.
What do you mean?
Like you were going to this studio and like they were just making this choreography so long and so fast, and you're like, well, what's the goal here? Like, am I supposed to learn how to dance, or am I supposed to learn how to survive this and
routine.
like basically to learn as fast as possible, to ingest this as fast as possible, and that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
Like you need to be able to learn that for the job or learn that for a TV show or whatever, but it's not about the dancing.
No, it's not. And that's like, I was saying this to my class yesterday because we had like a little talk back after my TEDx class, and I was saying to people, and I was like, because one of the ladies, she's just like, can you tell me who to take classes from in the city? Like, where's a good place to take a beginner class? Or like just like dance classes? And I couldn't answer her. Because I was like, the people that I'm like, I work from a space of compassion.
I would say Raul.
But does he? Oh, well, that's true. You know, that's true. But one of the reasons why I stumped is because I'm like, you may not. I was like, the people that I would probably tell you to go and train with are not necessarily doing a beginner class. If you're looking for somebody to be like, put your left foot here and then take your right foot and then step and then move this way, like if you're looking for something explanatory, then, or somebody that is going to be able to see your growth and to see, okay, I will see where you're at, I'm going to be able to break it down for you so that way you get it, because that's the type of teacher that I am. I can teach a room full of beginners because that's how I started my style, was with beginners. I didn't start with professional people. Professional dancers could care less about Afro when I first started doing it. There was very few of them that were coming into my classes, but a lot of them couldn't understand it, they couldn't grasp it, they couldn't do it, so then they stopped coming. All up until now, I still don't even get a lot of professional dancers in my classes, which for me is fine. I don't need your money, you know? But it's just like, you know, but then you're the first people that are just like, I really want to work with you. Well, part of that is like, and I'm saying this to you guys right now, it's just like, please know that my time in Toronto is starting to lessen. So if you don't stop showing up, I will not be here eventually. And then people are going to be like, oh, well, it's like, guys, I was here for 10 years. I was teaching for 10 years. And at some point in time, I'm now going on to greener pastures.
I've had this
it's not
conversation
to say that I'm not going to be here, but it's just the fact that I'm not going to be as accessible as I once was. And that's really, it's like, that is the 2020 move. I'm not here. I'm not going to be teaching regularly, like on Thursdays. Like I won't be, because I'm on contracts.
I was having this conversation about the founders in the U.S. and how, like I was comparing with like my country, where there's a transmission is very, very important for us, my teachers, and that's a subject that comes a lot in like conferences about hip hop culture, and we talk about the OGs in the U.S. where they're pretty much always in airports. And there's this thing about it feels like there's like a generation that jumped where there's it's a lot of lost children, you know, like they didn't get taken care of by the people who created those styles, and so it's like a weaker generation basically from the country that invented those styles. And
just to, before you keep going, and that to me is like, there was people that cared. To me, it's like you were holding something sacred, and you continue to allow the people that you put it onto to understand that what you were holding was something sacred. So your disciples can understand the care that it took, and then they can then teach and understand. But if you are not holding, if you don't start with the fact that you're holding something sacred, and anybody, that's why it's like now everybody and anybody can do hip-hop, can do Afro, can do dancehall, and just, you know, go on this dancehall playlist and just be like, I'm inspired, I know what I'm doing. And you're just like, no, that there was, but that to me, and that's where I feel like people have to take responsibility for that. People have to understand that it's like, we've not to say I guess in some ways it's like we failed. We actually haven't done the work enough to make sure that the people that are coming up underneath us understand what it is that we've created.
Oh, it's a two-way road too.
Yeah.
I was gonna go back because we went very fast. Switching topic and everything else. That's all good. I was trying to like make the effort to remember the questions, but I wanted to talk about, since you actually made this move of like you dance with artists and you created your own your own path and your own creations. I want to talk about how for a lot of people being a backup dancer is like a goal. What do you think about that? That's a loaded question.
Yeah, it is. So it's not like it's a bad goal. Backup dancing could be really amazing, and it's dope. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I love dancing backup. But if you're asking me if that was gonna be the only thing that I'm gonna do, I'm gonna say no. If it's something that I do as like a favorite pastime, like, oh, you get to dance a backup for this person, holla back. Like, dancing last year for Francesco when we opened up for Justin Timberlake was a dream. It was dope. But was that gonna be something that I would want to live 9 months out of my year for a check? Probably. But for life, probably not. Because I'm like, I understand that it's like I've developed myself into my own brand, and I'm more committed to understanding myself as a brand than to put the time and energy and effort into somebody else. Because that's one of the things that people realize. Ophelio actually was one of the first people that I guess kind of said it out loud. And he was like, do you want to live in someone else's shadow? When you're dancing backup, you really are someone else's shadow.
That word you use, I find is a horrible word, like developing a brand, talking about yourself.
Yeah.
I know, like, we talk, friends talk about, like, everybody has, like, dancers have their own style, their own personality, but using the word brand is so dehumanized.
Yeah, but yes and no, but because it's like you are yourself. The same way it's like my style is me, and that represents who I am. And technically, and not everybody has the ability to develop themselves into a brand. There's a lot of not very talented people that develop themselves into a brand. And for me, I'm like, why? Who are you? What have you done? Have you paid your dues? Or are you just really good at marketing?
Yeah, let's be clear.
And business. And because you're really good at marketing and business, you can put yourself in a position to put yourself in front of a room and try to teach people, but you don't know what you're doing.
No, I understand why it's necessary to do it. I'm just saying it's very cold. You know what I mean? Like, it's cold as business.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with dance.
No, very, very, very much not. Yeah. And that's why it's like you can get very talented dancers that that may not go as far because their business sense is not in another place. And obviously people can say that with some OGs, and that's why it's like Rich and Tone just first did their like intensive last year, I think, or was it this year or last year? And to me it's like, and they develop half the people that we know as artists. They've choreographed half the people that we know as artists. But you, who's done nothing or has done 4 music videos, feel like you have something to teach. But the people that have actually founded this industry and the things that we know, especially within the commercial hip-hop world, that those people are not getting the chutzpah to be able to say, let me do this.
Okay, let's move away from teaching for a sec. Okay. I just want to ask this. You, like, seeing all the blogs you had, like, considering like your darkness and all that stuff, like, why, like, because you talked about like creating shades and all that. Okay, the question is, how come you considering moving
to away?
Yeah, like everybody's going to LA and stuff like that. Did you?
I did. I actually had the opportunity to move. Somebody gave me my papers, like an invitation letter for me to get my visa.
Okay.
This was shortly after I had gone to China. So China.
Oh yeah, you went to China.
Yeah.
It was the same
Justin,
time. Leah.
Julia, yeah. All of us. Winnie. And shout out to Winnie, because Winnie, she's gigging. We both got a letter from a U.S. choreographer, because he was in, what is it? Oh, Dos Santos, I can't remember. Jesse Dos Santos, that's who it is. He was in China, he was choreographing on the company that we were working with there, and he loved me and Winnie. And he wrote a letter to both me and Winnie, and Winnie did all of the work and got her papers and moved to LA, and I did it.
Okay.
I stayed. And the thing is that, just to give timeline, that happened right before I started training in traditional West African again. So
Okay.
I would not be doing Afro. I would not be doing any of the things that I'm doing now. I would not have created Shades. I would not have created ZAYO. I would definitely not be doing a TED Talk if I chose to actually pursue that at that time. I wouldn't be who I am now. So I understand and I was hesitant because I think I was scared.
You were scared of what?
Of going there.
Oh,
I was
really?
scared of being, because the thing is like the reality of that is like, you gotta be in LA and you gotta be ready to fight. And you gotta be ready to probably step on some toes and be really fake to people.
But isn't that what you had to do here? Like, fight?
I did, to a degree, but I was fighting, but then the industry was fighting back at me. So I was trying to make myself known, but the industry was like, yeah, dark-skinned woman, yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I don't really think that there's a place for you. So then it's just like, okay, well, if there's no place for me, then I need to find my way somewhere else. So the contract in China was one of the last things that I did in the commercial dance industry before I transitioned to getting into doing traditional West African. So I studied with Lua Cheyenne, and Miranda was already in the company. And I studied with Lua for a number of years, and then I started asking questions in terms of, well, I really love traditional, but I really love the commercial world, so how can I blend them together? So my choice of doing Afrofusion was not like it was a fad. I created it because I wanted to bring my worlds together.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the reason why I started Afrofusion, because I had done so many things, and I realized that I was like, I'm in this really interesting space, being a dancer that has also worked in the commercial world. Like, I have a whole commercial context of how things are supposed to look when it's supposed to be on stage.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it brings a different point of view when I bring these things into the Afro world, because people are not used to seeing it that way. And I also work very fast. You know, I'm used to being like, come in, learn the steps, execute it, you gotta perform it tomorrow. Got it? Cool. Like, I'm used to that. So I started bringing that into this world, and people were like, well, we need to take time. And I was like, we need to take time. Guys, like, it's a timer. Like, what do you mean take time? Like, what do we have to take time for? Like, can't we just go? So it was an interesting mix of stuff. But the everything that I am now would not be present if I had chose to get my visa at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Do I still think I guess, like, being honest, it's like, yeah, I personally feel like there's a good possibility that I will likely get my visa. Yeah. I got a visa this year to do work with a US based company to create or to set ZAYO on the company, a 12-minute version of the show. So yeah, for me, I know that my time to be able to work internationally is starting to come, and it'll probably start to settle by next year, to start working a lot more internationally, which is what I wanted. To be honest, my dream was always to have Toronto as my base, and then be flown out to work in places, to be flown out to work in Europe, to work in the States, to work in South America, to work in Africa, like, because to me, it's one of the things that I realized, you know, when I was working with the LA-based company, they're a professional dance company, the Washington Dance Theater. They've been around for 40 years. They're celebrating their 40th year, and I'm very fortunate to have been able to choreograph a piece on them. But they do traditional, they do some traditional work, and then they are mainly like a contemporary, modern-based company. And then they do theater, they mix theater with it, so all within the realm of the things that I do. But one of the things, because they learned ZAYO from the video before I came in, and then I saw the piece and I was like, that's not my choreography.
They learn ZAYO?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's like what when you are in a real professional dance company, you would learn repertoire from the video, or somebody would come in and set a piece on you guys.
Right.
And then it's just basically a whole journey of regurgitation over the years. So
that's funny. So yeah, there's really something that you can't. Well, obviously, being devil's advocate there, but you cannot just reverse engineer the work of a choreographer just like that.
But then that's how a lot of these companies are able to provide pieces that are 40 years old. So when you're looking at ballet companies, they're just regurgitating information
right.
that was taught 40 years ago. Maybe people might tweak it, but really, it's like that work stays alive. One of the things that I realized was that the transmission and knowledge and understanding of the movement and the body, and how it is that I'm coming into the approach. Because when people see Afro, yeah, we could do it. And if I'm teaching it for a beginner class, yeah, it doesn't really matter. But if I'm doing my actual work and setting the things that I want to do, it's going to require you to be able to introduce your body to something very different. So where I sit in the body with different movements and things like that is different than it would be for other choreographers.
How much room for interpretation do you leave to your dancers?
There's room.
Yeah. There's
room, but I'm very specific, because I can automatically flag and realize, oh, you're doing that in a hip hop way. That for that particular move, you can't be in hip hop. You need to be in Afro. And you can't. It's not Senegalese African. I'm rooted in Guinea styles and Ghanaian styles. That's the root of the space that you need to be in. So you think that it's more, but then it's like, actually no. That Afro move, it's rooted in Afro, but I'm rooting it in hip hop. So or I'm rooting it in Afro Brazilian, or I'm rooting it in samba. You know, it's just like that's why for me it's like being very strategic with getting people to recognize and realize that when you're attacking my style, it's not as simple as you think. And it really takes a lot of time for you to be able to understand the nuances and the grooves. For other people, it might be very different, but for me, it's just like it requires work. It requires work, and it requires a lot of knowledge, and that's the thing that I'm the most worried about. It's like, how do you maintain that? How do people teach you if they haven't actually trained with you? Because it's not like it's just a series of like legs and movements and steps and a penché here and an arabesque there, and it's not in the realm of a contemporary lens. So how can you guide people when they don't have enough language to be able to fully comprehend your work? That's the new learning space that I'm in.
Heavy question, I want to go back on something. Just I'm curious about something. I don't know if you know, I did like an episode with TK Smooth.
I didn't get a chance to see it yet.
He talked about something. He talked about the African stigma inside the Caribbean community and music, and I'm wondering if that's something that also existed in dance in Toronto. Because you said like, so you think you can dance, people step back and you realize that they wanted like the same type of shade for people, but is it something that happened too? That it made me think of what he said about how Caribbean people were not inclusive of
Africans, not at all.
Yeah. So
and now they're the first ones that show up with their dashikis and all of their African print, being like, "Hey, I'm African," and we're like, because honestly, it's like I've always wanted to have a conversation about that, and it's not a matter of calling people out, but there's a reason why there's a lot of African people, children, that do not embrace their African heritage as adults. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why a lot of the people that are have African clothing companies and all of that stuff. There's a reason why a lot of the population that actually are importing stuff are Caribbean. We were mocked. People were mocked. You were made fun of. I was made fun of for the food that I had. The fact that the oil from the gravy that my mom had would leak out of my thermos. Like, I was mocked all up at, it's just like, you are, because the lens of what it means to be African, what it means to be black in Canada, and more specifically Ontario, and very specifically Toronto, or within the GTA Southern Ontario context. What it means to be black means that you are Jamaican, period. Mm-hmm. That is the lens, that is the homogenous. If you are black, you are Jamaican. And it's no shade to anybody that is of Jamaican heritage, but what happens is that we lack the diversity of understanding the differences amongst us as a people. So when you're looking at even within Caribbean people, everyone's like, yo, I'm not Jamaican, I'm Trinidadian, or I'm from Barbados, and people just having pride in being able to say that. I'm like, you have an issue with saying that as a Caribbean. Imagine being an African. There's many people, like some of the boys, I think Martin said it, he was just like, yo, for the good chunk of my life growing up, I would always say that I'm Jamaican. I wouldn't say that I was Ghanaian or African, because there was no pride in that. Like, think about it. When everything that we had as a visual growing up as Africa was a World Vision child that was like, you just give $2 a day and you can allow this child to have water and food. Right. That was the idea of everybody had about Africa. So what pride would you have in that? I had a girl in high school say to me, as ignorant as I was, she's like, do you guys live in huts? Because I was going to Ghana for the first time. She's like, does your family live in huts? And I looked at her and I was like, bitch, real? But then I was like, but she doesn't know. Yeah. She doesn't know. So how can I be mad at her, even though I really want to be? How can I be mad at her if she doesn't know? And you thought that at the time? Oh yeah, I've always thought that, and it's always angered me when it's like Afrofest and everyone's like, yeah, I'm African, and I was like, bitch, no, you're not. Okay, I understand that your roots and your ancestry are connected to this, but everything that you are represents the country that you're from. So if you have pride in the country that you're from, why can't I have pride in my heritage without you having to steal it? Without you, not to say steal, that's a bad word, but without you having to claim it, and or just understand that when you claim it, and when you've made fun of me as a child growing up, I have no reason to claim my heritage. Like, I have no reason to celebrate and be like, yay, I'm African, this is me, this is who I am, this is, you know, all of that stuff. Like, I have no reason to sit there and to be like, I'm a prideful African if all I've had to do is to fight to be recognized. You know, and that to me is like the issue that I have. And I was like, of course, that's the reason why you don't have a lot of African children doing traditional African dance, because they don't see a reason for it. Don't speak the language. Exactly. I don't speak the language. But is everything that I'm doing a representation of my culture? Yeah. So then you can give me a blind. I know that I need to learn it. Got it. But you know, it's just it's where's our pride? And now we're living in a time where Africa's everywhere. Like, I was like, I don't know what it would be like. Like, I'm looking at my niece, and I'm just like, she's now literally growing up in a time where it's like, I can celebrate with my African print and be out and exist in everyday life. When and you will look like everybody. Exactly, and I'll just look like everybody. I remember being in university and wrapping my hair. So generally, it's like sometimes when I wrap my hair, I'll put it back and I'll tie the bun at the back. That's what I did in university. But when I was in one day I got inspired and I wanted to wrap it kind of like Erykah Badu. The looks that I got. Yeah. The looks that I got from so many people, by the time I didn't even survive the day. I changed the way that I wrap my hair, because I just was like, you guys are not okay with this version of Africa. If it's just a head wrap and it's tied at the back, then that version of Africa is fine. But if you wanted an Erykah Badu style from an African, nah, we were not okay with that. There's a movie, I don't know if you saw it, called Little Senegal. No? You should check it out. It talks about the racism that there is in North America between Africans and African Americans. Yeah. Very good movie. There's the same issue in France, and I mean, just to give France you a little bit of a. Europe is bad right now. There's this conversation about how French Caribbean are not. They don't see them as African. They're different. Yeah.
And I've heard that my whole life, growing up in that community, and it's interesting. Anyways, it's not about me here, but so what's we didn't even have time to talk about ZAYO and Shades, but
we can still go.
Yeah. So I don't remember the one I saw first. I think it was ZAYO.
I did at Summerworks.
I remember seeing ZAYO at Harborfront, like a little piece of it.
Oh yes, that was like 2015.
Something like that.
Yeah, that was the first version of ZAYO that I did. And it's ZAYO. That ZAYO's not the same ZAYO that it is now.
Yeah, I remember that. And well, I mean, like those two pieces are Shade is more inspired by your experience in the industry, right? And ZAYO. So that's the first time I saw Percy. I saw ZAYO at the Harborfront, and then I saw it in theater as well. And yeah, so this one was it inspired by your own experience too, or?
Yeah, ZAYO. A lot of the work that I'm doing now really blends like ancestral, spiritual work with my artistry. It's just like it's just as one. So one of the things that I realized for myself was that I would have a lot of people I would meet in like people like Mexico, Brazil, like just different people that would tell me about the path that I'm on and what it is that I need to do. And I would be like, I don't understand. I don't get this, how is it that everybody seems to know what my contribution to this world is supposed to look like, but I have no idea who you are. Like people that can just like there's other ways of seeing people, and people can see people energetically and really see your aura and what it is that you're supposed to do. And I would get that a lot. And so ZAYO was really a way for me to kind of just say thank you to the people that have come in my life that have really shaped the path that I'm on now and gotten me a chance to see, my heritage from a different point of view. My heritage from a different point of view. Myself guiding other people as well, through life and navigating life. So when people work with me on my stage shows, it's not just to come into the studio and dance, unless I'm doing it for like a corporate show or something. But if I'm actually doing like my own choreography, you can ask any of the dancers, like they went through the ringer, and you're having to look at yourself, look at your life, to do the work, to develop developing yourself as a person, as a human, as a spirit, all of that. Because I personally believe that it's like you chose to be here. It wasn't just like, oh, I chose you to be in the show and then that's it. So it's like very passive approach. And I was like, no, it's like the same way that I asked for you to come here and to be in this space, you also require the work that is needed in this space for yourself, for whatever it is that you need to do to take you on to XYZ. It's like we're constantly learning from each other, and I wanted to be able to create a space with both ZAYO and Shades that gave me the chance to kind of just work with people and understand what it is that you're coming with, and how you can use all of the things that your experiences of your life and how you can use that into the work. Because one of the things that I love with acting is that you use where you're at and you bring it into the work. But with the many dance settings, everybody was like, leave it at the door, come in and just turn your emotions off and then just drop in and do the work. You can't put a plug on what's happening in your life. It's gonna stop you from creating, and it's gonna stop you from creating in an honest space. And I need people to be honest in the work that they do, so in order to do the work that I need them to do in the shows that I create.
What kind of connection do you have? What kind of relationship it creates with the dancers you pick? Because you have this idea, you want to getting out of your head, and then you want people to make it happen in real life, and there's like a give and take type of kind of relationship, like someone who writes a musical piece and needs like a very good musician to play it.
Well, I'll say twofold. Okay, so I'll talk about Shades first, and then I'll talk about ZAYO. So when I created Shades, when I first did it in 2016, and then all the years of seeing and understanding what, excuse me, what the show was going to be, I didn't know what Shades was going to turn into. When I first created it in 2016, I just was like, I want to do a show based on my experiences of what I've gone through in the industry. It seems like I'm being, this conversation about shades and shadeism is really coming to the forefront. I need to figure out how can I bring this forward. I didn't really know what it was going to look like. So Shades was a guinea pig piece, and everybody that was in it were my guinea pigs. Not everybody that was in the original piece was in the show, like going forward. So like the original cast had like Sammy, Sene, Shaquille, Percy, Ronnie, and Tarika. There was 6 of them. And then because of budget, I had to put myself into the piece or else I couldn't pay myself. So then when I needed the 5 people, it was Ronnie, Percy, Tarika. I asked Miranda to come into the show, and then it was going to be me. So it was the 5 of us. We were working on a piece. We had come together. We'd done, multiple, exploration exercises and things like that. And I just was really curious about like unity. Where did unity place into the world of shadeism? We now exist in a world where everything is so disconnected and everything's so fragmented. But I don't want to believe that that's where we started. We clearly started from a place of being unified, and then we ended up disconnected. So asking those questions started bringing up a whole bunch of stuff. And then 2017, we were getting ready to do the show. I got sick, and that was when I was in the hospital. So I got sick, I got into the hospital, realized a lot of the issues that I was having with the show, because it happened right before it was like the week before we were getting ready to present. I was in the hospital, and then I stayed there for 2 weeks. And then I just was like, okay, so what was the thing that was like pissing me off about Shades? What was the thing that didn't give me the chance to feel like this was actually, I was really proud of this work. So I went through the process. I was like, okay, well, dance is missing from this piece, because one of the hardest things with dealing with a conversation about shadeism is that it leaves you disabled. Like, you really are like, okay, act out what it is that you're doing. And it honestly is like impossible, because you're holding on to the baggage of what it is that you've been through. So one of the things that I realized is that we had to start chipping away at that baggage. And that was the part where people didn't know what they were walking into. Like because we were doing a documentary. So there's times that I was probably talking to Alexis and Lindsay, the directors, and being like, yeah, I didn't expect this to be a therapy session with my friends. I just was asking them to be in a dance piece. Like, I didn't really know, and neither did they really know what it was that they were walking into. But they trusted me. And that was the thing that kind of stayed, and I'm very thankful that they did. But it was hard. It was really hard, and we cracked people open. There were times where people wanted to leave the show, but they didn't because they loved me, and I'm very thankful that they stayed. But it got real, because it's if you think about the things that you've experienced as a child, as an adult, the things that, especially when in the world of shadeism, not being enough, not realizing that you have privilege, all of that stuff. Now throw yourselves in a room and give space to dive into the depths of where that started from. And I can now say things that I've always wanted to say to light-skinned people, because I'm like, you guys are walking around with privilege. You guys don't even understand what it means. You can choose when you want to be black. When I wake up, this is all that I am. There's never a choice that I can be. I can assimilate and be something else. I can be the palpable black person. Everybody sees me and they're intimidated. That's something that just is on me as a dark-skinned black woman. This is my reality. And as a light-skinned woman, you don't have that same reality. So being able to speak through that is venom. And I'm not necessarily saying it because like Miranda got the hit of it. And I was like, I'm not saying it to you as if you were the person that was the source of my pain. But what you represent, I'm going to say it freely, and it may seem like I'm saying it at you. And in ways I might be, but then it's just like I'm giving myself the opportunity to just let it out. And what that releases, and how people were able to maneuver through that, and it got ugly. Like, it got ugly that week, and it was just like, we need some time off from each other. Like, we really need, and it's like, I did not know the piece that I was creating when I was creating it. I just was listening because I was like, this is what the work needs. I'm a person that serves the work. I serve my art. So whatever the artwork needs is what it is that I will do. That's who I am as an artist. Not everybody's like that. So knowing that I serve the work, I had to put my ego aside. And no matter how many times I was like, okay, this is the direction that Shades is going in. And then something else would reveal and it would take us in a new way. Something else would reveal and it would take us in a new way. So every time I try to really put the show together, I was kept getting hit with brick walls, and it was the most frustrating thing that I've ever had to go through. But I understand now why I had to do that, because it gave me the chance to understand what was really lying at the depths of it, because this is an issue that has been passed down from generation to generation. People don't even realize that they're experiencing that they've had to go through it. So having to bring people to that forefront of recognizing that takes work. And then giving people that opportunity to go through that work. And so now that I having gone through Shades, I have a better understanding of, like, so when you're walking into this piece, this is what I'm asking of you. So Allison, that was a part of the original show last year, couldn't be a part of the show this year because she's in Virginia. So Selena came in. So even casting, I was like, okay, now I'm back again, needing to cast another light-skinned girl, but it can't just be anybody. You can't just be a new dancer coming in and be like, I'm going to do a show on Shades. You're not at a place in your life to have to confront your life. You have to be at a certain space for yourself to be able to say that I'm really willing to deal with this shit, or at least open up the door of where the shit is to say, okay, I'm going to actually just start to unveil or reveal some of the stuff and deal with what is going to come up when I do. So Selena, bless her heart, she auditioned. She was not going to be my first choice, but she ended up being the perfect person for this show. And everything that she brought and everything that she was willing to stand in was so beautiful. Like, I absolutely I'm so, like, I sat there and I was like, there could have not been anybody else that could have done this show. But she's a mature woman, a light-skinned woman, and she ended up changing the narrative of the show, which was like everything worked out the way that it was supposed to, and I just had to be open to what it meant to having her in that space. But then she was now coming in when we've already done the work, and she's coming in for the first time, because everybody's like, yeah, I've seen the show, and I was like, seeing the show is different from being in it. Like, you're crying out.
Sounds like it, yeah.
You're crying after every rehearsal.
It sounds like you should even do like a making of.
Oh, it's coming. It's happening. It's coming. But it just like gives people the chance to kind of like dismantle and open up. And then the thing that I realized with ZAYO is when I created ZAYO was a chance for me to kind of just showcase my Afrofusion choreography. I wanted people to see what it is that I do, the movement it is that I do, all of that stuff. I wanted to show the potential of what my Afrofusion movement was. That was my original intention. And then a whole other thing gets revealed. And then all of a sudden ZAYO becomes like a really heavy spiritual piece. And that was the space where we really we had to kind of, because it's like shadow work. It's like the things that you want to hide of yourself that you don't want people to see. Mm-hmm. And for me, my biggest issue, whether or not people believe it or not, is my doubt. I doubt myself a lot. So I prevent myself from doing half of the things that I really want to do because I don't believe that I can actually do it. So, or I'll just talk myself out of a lot of things. And, when people saw that piece, people could see mental health. When you see ZAYO, when you see the dancers coming in, or when they become demons and all of that stuff, it's just like people can see a lot of different things, but it's whatever you want to project on it, because it's relative to me. It's like I create work that people can see themselves in it. Mm-hmm. And ZAYO was exactly that. So there was a point in rehearsal, and I just started asking people. I don't remember how. There was something that sparked And then we went down the rabbit hole, and I asked everybody, and I was like, I've lived through my stuff. So going through this again and having to relive the reason why I created this piece is my own thing. But don't just think that you're a dancer, so you're just you're doing all of this stuff to me, giving me all of this energy, and then you're out. And I was like, no, when you're in that space, when you're the person that's giving the test to me, don't see me, see yourself. And then all of a sudden what that opened up for people, and it's just like, when you see yourself, what is it that you want? What do you want? And like, you guys know that as hard as it was, I still come out triumphant. I might be coming out with scratches and bruises. You guys are not, like, they are not nice to me, and I didn't make it that way. Like, they are seriously putting me in a pressure cooker, and I choreographed it that way. But I also knew is because I was like, because that's what it was in my life. I was in a pressure cooker, and the steam is coming out, and it's the temperature thing is like breaking, but I survived. And it's that whole idea of how much do we have the hindsight to be able to know and see the fact that, like, we can actually survive the shit that comes up in our life. Like, so when you're going through something and it feels like it's weighing on you and your whole entire body, can you have the hindsight that whatever is actually happening, like, to you is actually happening for you to get through this part, and for you to come out triumphant. Like, there's nothing that's actually working against you in your life, even when it feels like it is. So getting people to see that. Is it, see?
It's gonna sound cheesy, but you know, pressure makes diamonds.
But when we're going through stuff, that's the furthest thing from our mind. When you really think about it, it's like, pressure, man. That's the furthest thing. When I'm really going through something, I don't want to talk about, like, oh, this is helping me become, no, I don't want to talk about it yet. Like, that's something that's not, like, at the forefront of my mind for me to be like, yes, this is actually making me better. It's just like, no, I'm going through some real shit, and I can't see the forest through the trees. You know? And it's getting people to see that. It was getting the cast to see that. And I sat there, and I was like a one-on-one therapist. So I'm looking, right, what do you want to fight for? What do you want to fight for? If you are me, what do you want that person to fight for? And it's like, or what do you want that person to prove? And they're like, you have to prove that you're worthy. You have to prove, you have to do this. You need to do that. You need to do that. And everybody would have it. And I was like, whatever that is for you, I said, you dance that. You dance that, and you push that person. And you push that person to the point where they basically end up giving up, or they give up to the point where they become triumphant. You know? And I was like, whatever that is for you. And I was like, give yourself that opportunity to go through that, because it'll change your life. And it changed my life. And I'm realizing now that it's like, my art is therapy. Like, the work that I do, when you're in a room with me, it's like it's something really special and sacred, which is why it's like, I want to work from a place of compassion. I want to make sure that I have people that are really willing to do the work. So, you know, because I'm like, there's nothing worse than, because people tell me all the time, oh, Esie, I want to work with you. I'm like, okay. You know, you got to be ready for what it is that you're asking for.
Sign with your blood.
Yeah. And I was like, you know, make sure you have your journal. Like, make sure you're really willing to kind of go.
Sign the waiver.
You ain't gonna get mad at me, because it's like, it's gonna come up, and I'm seeing it in some of the dancers, like, like, you know, it's just like, it's hard. The aftermath, it's like, being in the show is one thing, but then when you get back into reality and you have to face the things that are happening in your own life, you know, it's like, I've seen it with some of the people, and I see how hard it is, and I'm trying to give as much loving encouragement to them, to be like, you know that you can get through this. You have to get through this, because if you don't get through this, you're gonna stay in the same place.
Mama Esie.
Literally.
All right. We're gonna have to wrap this up. I think it's the longest one I did so far.
Sorry, guys.
But there's so much more stuff to talk about, but thank you so much.
No problem.
A hug.
Thank you. Turtleneck gang. You have to say
there
that.
You go.
Yes.
All right, boom.
Okay, bye.